Hello everyone, Nadezhda here, and today's lesson is going to be about georeferencing the Revit model using the CAD file. And if you follow my channel, you know that a couple of weeks ago I have created the lesson where I georeference the empty file, and today's process is going to be a little bit inverted because today I'm using the real life example of the project I'm working on currently, which I have already modeled the concept design for, but I have received the survey file after I have already modeled the concept design. So we are going to cover the situation where you already have the model, you already modeled the building, and then after modeling it, you are supposed to set up the coordinates of that building using the Survey CAD file. Let's begin. So I have this building, and I'm going to be using this file. First step is always the same, and that is checking of units in the AutoCAD file. I'm going to be using the measure distance tool to see what are the units, and I can see that this distance is 7.2, which means these are meters. I also go to the UN option, and I can see that also the units for entire file is meter. So that means in case of this file we can even use auto detect, but we are going to be doing everything the way we usually do it. I'm going to go back to the Revit file and I'm going to use the link CAD option. I'm going to select my file, I make sure here is meter, and I'm going to be using center to center or origin to internal origin option because our file is still empty, it is not set up yet, so the shared coordinates option is not going to work. So I click open, and as you can see my file is a little bit slanted. I will just turn off the scope box I'm using, and I will also uncrop the view so I can see the entire file. And in this case, the first step you do is actually set up your CAD file to fit your building. And in this case, first I use the Align tool. I go to Modify Tools and I use Align, or I simply type in AL. And I find one side of my building to rotate this CAD file. I click one wall, and I see that I cannot select anything, and that is because by default Revit pinned this file. So I select the file and I click unpin to be able to use it. Now I go to Align again and I click one side, and I also click one line of my drawing. And now this CAD file is correctly rotated, and what we have to do also is we have to move it so it's lying in the right spot compared to our building. So I'm just going to select this file and I'm going to be using Move tool, and I'm just going to move this file to be in the exact spot where it's supposed to be regarding my building. So I move it here and now it is in the right spot. So the next step we do is the same as in the old process. We go to the Manage, Acquire Coordinates. I click on this CAD file and now the coordinates are acquired. Click Close. And now we can see that the orientation has been turned to Project North. I'm just going to get rid of the view template I'm using here so I can explain everything to you here in the properties. I can see now when I turn my orientation back to true north, entire building rotates. That means our Project North is correctly taken from the file. You can either use Project North or True North, whatever you are doing in this case. Of course, like I said before, Project North is used for floor plans, for ceiling plans, and for all of these rotated views, and the True North is used for site plan. Now we have done this, our next step is also setting up our survey and project base point. So I go to Visibility Graphics or a template, and I go to the Site option and I click this plus sign to uncover project base and survey point. When I go to Zoom Extents, by clicking the pen wheel of my mouse, I can see that survey point is somewhere far away. And the first thing I do is I unclip it just so I can move it without moving all of the coordinates. And I use Move tool to move it somewhere where I want it to be, somewhere on my plot. I will just add it, for example, here on this red edge, and I will clip it back again. I will do the same for the project base point, except project base I will move to my grid line. I will move it here, and I will pin both of these points so they are not accidentally moved. I will also go back to visibility graphics and hide them again, because obviously I don't want to accidentally mess anything up about coordinates. And now is the time to check whether what we have done is correct, and we have two ways of doing that. First way is testing the coordinates. And I will go to the spot coordinate tool, and since I cannot select this edge, I can just simply draw one detail line here and then select those coordinates. I choose the spot coordinates option and I click this spot here. And now I will print screen this spot coordinate. And I go to AutoCAD and I use the ID tool. I type in ID and I click to see these coordinates. And I check whether these are correct. I will print screen again. And I go to Revit. I did not have to print screen twice. I should have just done once, but never mind, now it is done. And let's see if it's correct. Now what I notice also is that my entire file is in centimeters, so I also type in UN in Revit and I change the length to meters just so I can just look at the numbers and know if they are the same. And here we see that it's 49027590. And that's it, the coordinates are correct, and the next test we do is whether we can use the shared coordinates and whether this file falls into the correct place. And we do that by simply copying the survey file and naming it differently, because Revit does not allow us obviously to link the same file twice. So I just copied this file and rename it, and I'm going to go back to link CAD option. And I'm just going to select this copy option, and here I now should be able to use this by shared coordinates option, and file should fall exactly in the place of this other file. I click open, and now when I select this CAD file, I can see that it's called copy, and when I hide it, I can see that exactly below it is the old file. So that means once we use the shared coordinates, the coordinates fell correctly into the place. And now that everything is done in our floor plans, it is time to set up the height of the model. First, I decide which height I want to be my ground floor plan, and I will choose this 123.81 meters height. It will be the survey elevation of my ground floor level. So I create one section. It doesn't matter where, just create one section. Now select your ground floor, go to edit type and make sure that your elevation base is survey point so we can set up these absolute heights. Before I set up the height, I go to UN settings once again to make sure that my length is in meters. And I go to the specify coordinates at point tool and select my ground floor level. Here I insert the height that I have decided will be my ground floor level, and I click OK. And now we can see that these survey heights changed. This is the part where it's important to not forget the units, because if you're not in meters, then it's important to insert the value in the units of your project. Now that we have done that, we can go back to edit type and we can turn this back to project base point and click OK. So that means we have successfully relocated our file. Of course, if you have any questions, comment below. I do my best to answer all of these comments. And if you like my lessons, like and subscribe. And thank you for watching, and see you in the next lesson. Bye! If you want to learn Revit like a pro, take a look at my architectural course through the link below. You will learn how to develop the project from concept to final design using Autodesk Revit. It is ideal for beginners but valuable for anyone looking to build a solid foundation. By the end, you'll know how to take a design from concept to detailed documentation with confidence and clarity. You will gain a solid Revit workflow you can actually use independently or in work in larger teams in architectural studios. With almost 100 structured video lessons, it is designed to help beginners master Revit step by step. To support your progress, I've included assignments with each lesson, plus the opportunity to ask questions and receive guidance directly from me whenever you need it. This way, you're not just watching tutorials, you're actively learning, practicing, and improving every step of the way. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.